you, beautiful people, to the Real Collective Podcast, the first half of the Real Collective Podcast, where we're going to talk a little bit about the mystery of the conditional sale. Ooh, what happens in a conditional sale? What's the price that the house sold for? Who knows? Nobody knows. There's only two people who know. Four people, really. Not more than four. The buyer, the seller, the agents for both, the mortgage brokers for at least the buyer, and that's about it. That's the only people who knows. And there's a way to figure out more stuff about it. And we're going to get into all of that in just a few seconds. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who you think might like this conversation. As well, you can download the buyer or seller guides below. You can book an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links below. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or watch us on YouTube. Here we are in all of the above places. Now, what is a conditional sale? What does it mean? What does it do? Yes, I'm reading my text messages again. I got to turn off those notifications while I'm recording the podcast because I have ADD. Where's the squirrel? Let's play baseball. While a property goes... Sorry, Kyle, how are you doing today on this lovely Thursday?
Living the dream, as usual. As usual. I'm interested in... You just piqued my interest, though, because when you're like, here's how you find out more. I'm like, find out more what? So I'm interested to see where this goes, and I'll throw in my 2 cents on conditional sales.
Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the thing. The math is pretty mathy, and like you always say, you can't argue with it, right? Now, unless you have a crazy outlier, chances are you can understand what the conditional sale likely is based on averages. So there's a few things that you can do when you're looking at it. Was the property just put on the market, or has it been on the market for average days on market? Right now, average days on market's hovering around 2 months, 3 months, give or take. Go.
Okay, well, hold on. Sorry. When you say conditional sale, I'm thinking of I made an offer, I got a sale, and it's conditional. So
Yeah.
what does that have to do with what are you seem to be talking about something different?
No, talking about the
So
same
where
thing.
does the averages come in on that then? That's where you lost me.
So the averages are what I'm looking at every month. So when you're watching the channel, you subscribe to the channel, you see every month that I'm doing a
Yeah.
report on what's going on. What's the average price point? What's the average list price to sell price ratio? And what's the average days on market? Okay. Based on the world that we're living in right now, if the average list price to sell price is 97% for houses like that, and the average days on market is about 2 months, then chances are, if it's been 2 months that the house has been on the market and the house is listed for call it $1 million, it's probably sold for something around 970 on average, give or take, right? So
Okay.
but if the property just came onto the market and there were multiple offers on it and it was listed for, I don't know, probably not $1 million in this example, call it 600,000, maybe it sold for 610 or 625 or 630 or something like that. You never know, right? But you can work at it. You can work out a guess and understand, hey, here's what it probably sold for. And chances are, if you're doing it based on math and you're doing it based on averages and you're doing it with sort of a good sense of what's happening in the world around us, the other thing you can do is you can have a conversation with the listing agent. If you have a really good relationship with the other agents in the city, you can extrapolate more information than you should be extrapolating from those agents. The funny thing about real estate agents is they love to talk. If you call them and you give them the opportunity to talk, sometimes they say more than they're supposed to. It happens. If you're a real estate agent, you're watching this, stop it. You're not really helping anybody, because if someone's calling me to ask me about a conditional sale on a property, chances are they're interested in it and they feel like they missed it, right? Now, if I'm trying to work and get a backup offer, I don't want to tell them that we sold it for $40,000 below the list price. I want them to give a backup offer at the list price, close to or even above, maybe, right? But there is a mystery of a conditional sale that I'll tell you. There's a house in my backyard that's supposed to firm up today. Maybe it's already firm now. That was listed for $975. and I thought it would sell somewhere between that and $1 million, and there was two offers for it. So my estimation on the conditional sale, which was where the conditions are due tomorrow, is that it sold somewhere between 975 and $1 million. I don't think it sold over $1 million. And with two offers, I think it's selling pretty darn close to the list price, maybe 980 to $1 million. That's my estimate. So we'll find out.
And what's your and so like you're talking about again conditional sale, but you would be thinking of like so you, is I'm trying to position this properly because I know you're talking about a conditional sale, but I'm looking at it from the consumer side saying, so what? Like, how do I even know what am I getting involved with here? So I'm cruising realtor.ca. I see a house and go, oh, I like that one. And then I look at it, or I ask my realtor to say, hey, go check out this one. And they come back to me and say, actually, it's conditionally sold. And you're like, oh, I'm like, oh, okay, too bad. But that keeps the wheels turning and saying, okay, so if I know these numbers, then that conditional sale is probably this. I don't know if I pay that. So yeah, I either want to forget this one or say, yeah, well, let's keep our eye on that.
Yeah,
That's how you're positioning. Okay.
that's
All
right.
right. For a sec there, I'm like, you're just talking about conditional sales. I don't know what's going on, but now I got
Right.
it. Sorry.
So the idea being, hey, if this is a place that you like and those conditions fall through, maybe you as the consumer have a chance to jump in. And if you jump in as soon as the conditions fall through, that's where we see a lot of clients having success, buying properties for prices that they probably shouldn't be paying. Like we bought one last year for 20 grand less than what it conditionally sold for. So it conditionally sold for like 1.3 and we bought it for 1280 last year. And just recently, the next door house, which is 1,000 square feet less and doesn't have a pool in the backyard, didn't look as nice, sold for $30,000 less than these guys bought theirs for. So they are looking like absolute champions right now. Another one we did in Bell's Corners earlier this year. It was listed for five. I think it was listed for five, like say like 579. Conditional sale sold for like 595, like under six. And then the conditional sale fell through, and we got in and we bought it for like 580. Right. So it's like there's not snaky ways, but there's ways to do it so that you can like get right in there and get the place. Whereas we also had a listing on the flip side. We had the listing listed at 450 that we conditionally sold for 440. The buyer didn't fulfill their conditions and they screwed up because they were asking all these questions about like, oh, hey, we found this in the inspection. Can you take off this money? And we're like, no. And then they didn't submit their final piece of paper saying, yeah, okay, you know what? Fine. Don't fulfill your, don't do these things. We'll take it anyways. And they let it lapse. The condition fell through, and another buyer came in, bought the house, but they bought it for 450, where these guys were trying to buy it for 440, and they were so happy to come in under the wire. So it's like the conditional sale has the house tied up. No one else can buy it during that time. But if there's someone who can jump up there, then you have the opportunity as a savvy buyer who's got a savvy agent knowing how to navigate this and jump in and say, okay, hey, here you go. Here's your chance to get this house, right? And a lot of the time, you need to use your inferences and your spidey senses and your conversations with the other agents to figure out what do we need to do to get this, right? And it's a lot of conversation. Do you think this deal's going through? What's going on? Da da da. All of that is going to play into how do you set yourself up for success if you can't get the house right now? Can you submit an unconditional offer when the conditional sale falls through? Go do a home inspection. Get your mortgage financing lined up. Get your ducks in a row. Like how many times are we talking about get your stuff lined up so that you're ready to jump at it?
So I see a house that's gone conditional, but I really like it. It's off the market, so I can't buy it, but I can still go do it. I can still make an offer. I can still go do an inspection on it.
Yeah, man.
So it's I didn't actually know that. I didn't know that
So,
actually.
so it depends. You can conditionally sell a house, and you can either allow showings or you can not allow showings. And the seller gets to choose whether they want to allow showings or no showings. Most sellers would say, especially if it's vacant, they say, "Yeah, I don't care, show it." Right? It doesn't
Yeah.
impact me or my family. Right? So if they do that, then by all means. Now, I would caution a consumer against making an offer on a conditionally sold property. You can, but all your offer is going to do is force the first people to firm up. You're going to be used as leverage to make the first people say, yeah, you know what? Someone else wants it. We want it too. Everybody always wants what they can't have, which is why people get so excited about conditionally sold houses. Oh man, if we only had a chance, this would have been the best one. You did have a chance. It's been on the market for 2 fucking months. What have you been waiting for? Like, you had a chance to buy it. Now that you can't have it, you want it, right? You see something you want it, go buy it. Like, stop waiting, start buying. That's my thing. Yeah, you can absolutely do that, but don't submit a backup offer. Wait in the weeds. Tell the other agent, hey, if you start to get wind that anything starts to go sideways, or if they give you a, if they give you, hey, you know what, we'll do the deal as long as you drop the price by this, tell me, because that's when I'm going to jump up and say, here's your unconditional backup offer. That's a better deal than the one that you've got in your hand. At which point you say to the first people, no thanks.
Yeah.
You can either take the house or you can leave it. Up to you.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Right. So yeah, that's the magic of waiting in the weeds about a conditional offer and knowing what you need to know in the background to be able to be successful. And everybody calls to ask, oh, hey, it's conditionally sold. People don't know. What did it conditionally sell for? We don't know. Nobody tells us. There's no way to find out what the number is. It's not reported. The only way you can find out is if you call the listing agent and ask. We don't even see who the agent is who brought the buyer on a conditionally sold house. So we don't know that.
Right.
Right? So the only thing you can do is either extrapolate information, make some inferences based on math, based on experience, or, and the easiest way, call the listing agent, ask some questions, let them bury themselves. Right? Yeah. It's and we've done it. We've done it a number of times where we come in and the seller is so happy to have that next offer right away because they're like, our house is sold, because people don't know. Oh, wait a second, it's not sold anymore? Bah. Oh, shit. Okay. Actually, and then the listing agent comes in. Actually, good news. We've got an unconditional offer. It's better than the offer that you accepted conditionally. Sign here and you're done. Thanks very much. Who else is getting a phone call? You think the other agent's gonna pick up the phone? The listing agent's gonna pick up the phone and call other people and try and generate another offer? No. You've been on the phone with the person for the last 3 days saying, hey, if anything happens, let me know. Anything happens, let me know. You're the guy, right? You're the person who's there, and you have the opportunity to come in and get it. Now, people are gonna say, well, wait a sec. Why did the conditions fall through? Was there something desperately terrible found in the home inspection? Probably not. Unless there is, in which case you ask. But sometimes things will go in the home inspection, and if a buyer doesn't know that there's someone else in the back door who's wanting to come and get it, they'll say, nah, yeah, you know what? I don't like this, that, or this about the house. I don't want to take on all these risks. And maybe the second buyer is like, yeah, I'll take on all those risks. I'm good with that. I don't care. So that is a peek into the mystery of the conditional sale and why it matters.
Yeah. And it comes back to this, and it comes back to the same thing we said last week about being prepared, right? Like if you're in the market, just be ready.
Yeah.
Just be ready. Like, don't start with the house and work backwards. Start with the money and work forwards. The people that are prepared are the ones that win, because that's where you can come in and say, right? Like I would that's how I picture it is we get so fired up. We're selling our house. We get fired up because we've already gone to buy another house and we're waiting for ours to firm up and then to go firm up on ours that we want to buy. And then ours falls through, and that's putting pressure on us. And that's where I would think, you tell me if I'm wrong, there's someone who comes in right at the last minute and says, hey, unconditional, but it's $25,000 less than
Sure.
what you're asking.
Yeah.
And my sentiment is, do I have the balls to hold out, or is that 25 grand really worth it to me? And the stress, here, take it, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So I can see that's why it happens. That's why it happens for sure, but only to the people that are prepared and understand it. Like, yeah, I see it all the time. Where the conditional sale, we've talked about this before, but the people who need to sell to buy, and then are like, well, we'll do like a first refusal. right? Or, something like that. And they're like, but we still have this much time to fulfill financing. And I'm like, but you can't fulfill financing
Right.
because you haven't sold your house.
That's
Your
right.
approval 100% of the time is based on the condition, on all the conditions. One of those conditions, most likely, is you selling your house, because either you can't afford to carry both or you need the equity from that house to buy the new one. If you don't, that's a different story. But let's assume that you do. In that case, you have not fulfilled your condition. You are waiving your condition. You might as well go in without conditions.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Quite honestly, you might as well, because it's not going to do anything for you if you haven't sold your house yet.
That's right. Well, and at that point, we have clients rely very heavily on our conservative evaluation for their home. So if the
You
reality,
have to.
look, your house is worth 800. It will sell in a heartbeat for 700, but it's worth 800. But if you do all your math on 700 and you can still make this work, sure, go ahead. But if you can't, you are taking the risk, Mr. Consumer. Are you okay with taking that risk? Right?
This is where the preparation matters, right? I was talking with other clients today, and they were talking because she's got to sell her house. He's already sold his. They're coming together like blended family kind of thing. She's got to sell hers, and but it's not listed yet, and they're making offers, and it's first refusal because she just won't get into that game. And I'm like, that's fine. I get the risk, and I'm not trying to push you to do anything. But
But
at
you're
the end of the day, I'm like, the conditional sale doesn't matter.
yeah. Well,
Like,
and when you do, we'll talk more about this in the second half. But the problem is when you put an offer with a first refusal, you A, lose your bargaining power, and B, they might not even entertain it. They might say no, go sell your house and then come back and talk to me, right? So it's yeah, I think this is a great story time for the second half. We'll get into it in the second half. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who likes what we're talking about, and we'll catch you on the flip side. This episode of the Real Collective Podcast is brought to you by Real Collective Marketing, the marketing agency that specializes in the unique needs and budgets of small to medium-sized businesses. We provide turnkey marketing solutions that get results. We become an extension of your team and act as your virtual marketing department, designing and implementing cost-effective strategies that will help grow your business. You can find out more today at www.realcollectivemarketing.ca. Now, here's your hosts, Sean and Kyle. Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the second half of the Real Collective Podcast, where we're going to talk about story time. We've got some clients who are going through the idea of buying a house, conditionally buying a house, and they need to sell theirs to buy it. It is not easy out there. We always tell our clients, do the hard thing first. And when a market is confused as we are right now, it's hard to figure out what the hard thing is. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this conversation. And also download us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. You can download the buyer or seller guides below. You can schedule an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links below. And let's continue on the story. These folks are trying to buy a house, but they want to buy it with a condition of the sale of their home. We talked about this before in a previous podcast. And they're not willing to take the risk of going to buy a house before there's a soul.
and I get it. Like,
Sure.
it's a scary endeavor. I mean, my wife and I did it because she didn't want to take that risk, and we ended up listing, selling, buying, and moving in 18 days, which was absolutely ridiculous. It
Bananas.
was mental.
Yeah.
But it was because she wasn't willing to take that risk. Quite frankly, at the time, neither was I.
Sure.
So just different market. But I think you're trying to. I'm not trying to kill anybody's purchase
Kill it.
or
Kill
sale.
it, Kyle. Kill it.
But if you understand how this stuff works, there's an advantage to that, right? Like, if someone came to me, or if I was going to someone else and said, "Hey, I'm going to buy your place," and I still have mine to sell, but I'm like, it's conditional on me selling my house, nothing else. Like, there's no conditions here. I still need access to the property because I want to do an inspection and whatever, but that's the only condition I would have. because I just got to sell my house, right? Everything else is done because I already know how it all works. So I don't have 5 conditions. I have 1, right? Does that look better than someone who's coming in saying I've got 5 conditions? Maybe not, because it's a sale of my home and rah, 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 right?
The sale of your home is always the worst because it lasts the longest. I'd
Yeah.
rather I'd rather all 5 I'd rather not the sale of your home inspection, mortgage financing, well and septic and insurance clauses that last a week or two versus the sale of your home that lasts for a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. No, thank you. Don't want it. Don't want my clients to take it. It essentially puts a red letter in front of your house. No one's going to look at it. Oh, well, you can still offer it for sale. Doesn't matter. No one's going to look at it because they can't buy it.
I like the thought. I like the thought of doing it, not putting in financing and just putting in an appraisal. Like, don't put financing,
Yeah.
because it's a different word.
Sure.
It's a different word.
I've done that.
Right?
I've done that many times with investors.
Yeah.
I won't put financing, but I'll put appraisal. I'm like, as long as your house appraises for what we bought it for, we're fine. Our financing
Yeah.
is good. But
And for anybody out there asking why, it's because an appraisal in lots of cases can be part of the financing.
right.
Right? It's like the financing. You can be approved as the buyer, no problem.
Right.
Right? But you are going to there's a likelihood, especially if you're putting more than 20% down, 20% or more, that you're going to be asked to have that appraisal is going to be asked for, physical appraisal, right? But that's a condition of your financing.
Right.
So if the condition of financing is what spooks people, again, when you don't know when you're in this and not understanding everything all the time, or you're just conditioned to be like, well, it's condition of financing and it's inspection and like that's it. And you know this now, right? It's the same thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you can't get your financing without the appraisal anyway.
Yeah.
So just rewrite it differently and look different than the next guy.
What it says to me is, hey, look, my financing's fine. As long as the bank's okay with the house, which is the piece that you have, we're good. But your house is falling over and it's a piece of crap and the bank won't look at it for more than land value. That's not me. My financing's fine. That's you. Right? And that happens. We've got houses that we're buying that are in such bad shape that the banks are like, I'm not lending you money on this thing. It doesn't work.
And that's another key piece that I really want people to understand. There's kind of like 3 parts, and but there's 3 things the bank's looking for. You, and can you pay them in the way that they want that documentation, by the way.
Yeah.
You can sit there and say, I can pay you, but they're like, can you prove it? 2, credit is the thing, obviously, because if you're bankrupt, they're not necessarily going to lend you money. Some people will, but it's different. And then 3rd thing, it's the house, because the mentality is that you're going to move in on a Monday and you're dead on Tuesday. That's morbid, and I'm not trying to play that down as like a joke, but it's true. That's the way the bank thinks.
Yep.
So yes, the property is the problem. So anybody out there who's getting mad, I just had another broker that I pal around with all the time, was like, anybody got an idea where we could send this deal, right? This house looked terrible, but it was the right price point for his one client, and his client took it so personally that the bank is like, no, we are not touching this with a 10-foot pole. Yeah. Right? Like he was irate about how bad the bank can be because he's mad that things are expensive and prices are what they are and banks won't help him and whatever. And I get that complaint. I'm not trying to put that down. But the thing is that he buys it on a Monday and he dies on Tuesday. Now whose problem is it? The bank's. And before someone out there says, yeah, but the bank owns the house, they are not property managers. They don't want your house. They want your house as the security. They don't want to own it.
Yeah.
Even though we talk about how they do, they don't want to manage it. Right? Well, they're not property managers. So your property is part of the solution. If it sucks, they don't see the potential. Just so we're clear.
If the bank takes your house, they're going to sell it. They don't want to keep it. Right? That's why you're seeing all these different power of sales or sadly bank foreclosures. They don't want to keep it. They don't want to just keep it and rent it out and get into the rental game. No, thank you. They want
they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay. They don't want it. It costs them too much money to have it. You are taking care of their investment and paying them to do it. Now you get a return on that, so that's like it's still a good thing. But if you thought about it from the standpoint of I bought it today and I died tomorrow, you're dead, so you don't care. The banks, it's now the bank's problem,
Right.
right? So they don't want that problem. So if it's a shit property, they're not going to invest. They don't want the problem, right?
Right.
And that's the thing. The house is so damn important. It seems obvious, but it's not,
Oh,
because again, people go in there seeing the potential, right? The bank doesn't see potential. The bank sees what could I sell it for tomorrow to get my money back.
Yeah, I guess you look at the bank as an investment partner, right? Like a silent partner.
100%. That's a great
bank,
there.
the bank
Perfect.
invests in the property. And that's what it is. They're investing 80% or whatever it is, thinking like, yeah, you know what? I think you'll be okay. And if you're not, then we've got your house, right? So that's what it is, really.
And go the other way and go to a private lender. Okay. People say, do you have any private lenders that'll do like 100% financing? No. Say, well, why not? Right? They get the house. They don't want the house.
Right. There it
They
is.
want the fee and they want the interest.
Yeah.
And if you go belly up, they need a cushion, because it's going to cost them money to kick you out. It's going to cost them money to get lawyers. It's going to cost them 5% on the realtor stuff. And it's going to cost them or more. And it's going to cost them time as they carry that property. So
Yeah.
when they sell it, they need to be able to recoup all of that and take a little bit extra.
Right.
So they're not. So that's why you're going to see them do 75% loan to value, 70% loan to value, depending on how far you are from the box. Like it's all that stuff, because it costs money to hold that house, right? If
Yeah.
it didn't, you wouldn't have anything to pay.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah, that's all good stuff. I mean, it has nothing to do with the conditional sale or the secrets of the conditional
Oh,
sale.
we started here and went way that way.
Hey man, this is what it is. We're just keeping it real. I can't argue with any of that. I think the other piece of the conditional sale, just to bring it back around, is the conversation that the two agents are having to bring it together. We talked about it last episode a little bit about how to stick handle that, because there's always going to be challenges that come up. And I think being solution oriented and bringing it from conditional to firm, and then making sure that you get from firm to closed, that's what a good agent is going to do. Where some agents are just like, oh well, I can't do anything, they said this, and they're asking weird questions that realistically they shouldn't be asking. Or if they are asking, you're like, really, that's a question you're asking? Like, we had one person ask, what the mailbox was. It's like, dude, ask Canada Post. Like, I don't know. Yeah, and you know what? You know what's going to happen, right? The we were on the selling side, and the buying agent asked, "Hey, what's the mailbox number?" And it's like, why are we bugging our clients with this? Like, just get it from Canada Post. And then I had another client where we were on the buying side, and we asked the listing agent, "Hey, what's the mailbox number?" It was 3 days ago. We have not heard back. And I told my client, I'm like, look, I'll ask, but we might not hear anything back. Ask Canada Post, right?
But okay, but why, as a seller, what you're going to be in the same position? So why would you not just be nice and be like, oh, this is it?
That's right.
I don't get that.
So I'll tell you, when we were on the seller side, right, we didn't want to go and bug our seller about asking one other question, right?
Why?
Why? Because they'd already answered 50 questions, and this was after like 4 other silly questions that it's like, who gives you hydro? Hydro. Who does the water? City of Ottawa. Who does the, like, it's there's one service provider for hydro, for gas, and for water. And the question was, who provides you with these things? Who do you think? We're in the city of Ottawa. Hydro Ottawa, Enbridge, and City of Ottawa for water.
Well, I think in some places though it's
Outside of the
not
city
the
of
same.
Ottawa, there's different service providers, correct. But everything inside the city of Ottawa, that's what it is. I mean, you might as well ask, hey, who do I pay my taxes to? Right? Like, the questions were like, and then it was like that, and then there was like, some other silly things where it's just like, okay, you gotta stop. Like, and then the last one was, hey, which mailbox is it? I'm like, dude, figure it out. Like, you've been doing this long enough. Anyways, on the flip side, I did the exact same thing. I don't know. We asked which mailbox it was. I told my client, look, I don't expect to get an answer from the listing agent because for whatever reason they're away or they're not going to answer or they just think whatever. I haven't heard back from the listing agent for 3 days. At least I told the other person, I'm like, hey, look, we're not having that conversation with our client. They're busy or whatever. Ask Canada Post, they'll give you the answer. I told my client the same thing. At the same time, I asked, but
I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even know where to ask. To be honest, if you
ask,
like, I just it didn't even cross my mind. I just get
Canada
mail.
Post.
I forgot. Like, I don't
How do
even.
you, yeah, you just call
Seems
Canada
so
Post.
ignorant.
I live here. That's because you've never moved. Right?
I have, but I also have a very organized wife, and there's certain things I just check out on. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna have to worry about this, and this is just gonna happen, and she does, and I'm sorry for giving her that mental load. Other things I definitely take care of, and she doesn't. We just naturally fired into this realm.
Hey,
Different relationship, different podcast.
that's
But
what
anyway,
that's what always happens. I mean, you know where I get my mail? In my mailbox at my front door, or directly handed to me by the mailman this morning. So
look
we
at
all,
that. What a guy. What a guy.
we also pay a lot of taxes. You know what was in my mail this morning? Nothing. Ads, flyers, a big flyer for Lego. Big Lego fan, as you can tell. But yeah, big flyer for Lego. So that's
Any other agent farming your area with an ad?
yeah, there's a couple, none today, but there are definitely a few agents that farm our neighborhood very heavy. Um, yeah, it is what it is. No, it doesn't flinch me. Yeah, that's what it is. So conditional sales. You can
Still
jump
there.
on some good deals. If you are looking at a house and it's conditionally sold and you want to know more about it, reach out to either Kyle or I. You can do so in the Calendly links below. You can also call us on the phone. We both have cell phones. All of our contact information is below. Our at are probably in the logos posted right here. Down below. You can also download us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this conversation. And until next time, keep it real.
Collective.